Ryan, second year with Union 2. Just in your mind, what has been the biggest difference between this preseason and last preseason?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is the transition of some of the players. Last year, I would say it's a lot of guys that had experience at the MLS Next Pro level, and they were kind of at the a different point in their cycle and their development of closer to the first team. You see with some of the movement with some of the guys in recent weeks, um, and now it's kind of a new group of players that are kind of starting out their next step with Union 2, and see exactly where they're at and how far they can get this season. And but I would say it's like kind of a new cycle with as far as the players and just even the age of the players. To use a couple examples, like Neil Pierre played last year was his second team as a full-time starter in the second team. And you saw the level compared to the year before for him. Whereas this year, there's other guys in that were kind of in that same space. CJ, David, Eddie, Sal, a lot of these guys, Marcus. Um, Whereas this year, you see more guys kind of at the beginning of that phase, and that's, William, Malik, Kellen, even Timo Mendoza, a lot of guys that are kind of Jordan, a lot of guys that are kind of in that space now where it's going to be a great opportunity to see how much they can grow this season, and see, how far we can get kind of month by month, game by game, see how much they can continue to grow and adapt to the level and see how far they can push it.
Um, Ryan, just after the club's made two consecutive Eastern Conference Finals appearances. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but going into 2026, what's the evolution look like? And is that still the goal to get to MLS Cup in 2026? And if so, what does that look like early on?
Yeah, that's the target always.
Mhm.
And we kind of, we try to take it game by game, and week by week because it is a development team, and you can if you look too far in the future, you forget about the little details, especially for the players. You forget about the little things that they need to do right week by week when they have the target. For them, it might be to play in the first team, but there's a long way that they have to go to do that. For us, it's, to win MLS Next Pro, but there's a lot of games that lead up to that, and there's a lot of improvement and development that has to happen along the way to get to that space. And you saw that with the group that we had last year and the year previous, with Marlon and the staff then. Um, but this year, we'll have to see how much we grow. That'll be the story of how far we make it and how competitive we are as far as in the Eastern Conference and how far we can take it. But for us, we focus kind of week to week, and like I said, with a lot of guys that are kind of in their beginning of their phase with Union 2, we shouldn't expect them to be perfect from the beginning, and it's about improvement, it's about performing, it's about taking feedback from games and improving week to week. So, while yes, of course, winning is always the target, and these guys have to be held to the standard. You want to be a pro soccer player, then you have to contribute to a winning team. That's what every coach wants is a player who steps in and helps the team win. But we're also realistic that a lot of these guys, Saturday will be their first game playing at this level. So we shouldn't expect them to be perfect from the first game. But we should expect the right commitment, the right reaction to a good, bad game. We have to build the following week to get better again.
Yeah, and I noticed, you have a lot of the guys that have come up through the academy, really young group there. And, especially with you being a former academy coach, I'm curious, just what were your overall impressions of the Snow Bowl? I saw you down there watching the U18s. We were there. That was a great tournament. But what were your impressions there?
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing event, and it's another example of the Union Academy being at the front of so many things in U.S. soccer development. I don't know that any other team in the U.S. has ever put together an event quite like that. And if you see the energy that was in the building, we were gone for a lot of it for preseason, but lucky enough to get back for the U16 and U18 final games. Uh, but if you just feel the energy, the level of play, this is a really cool environment for players to develop in. And that experience is one that I think a lot of them will take and remember probably for the rest of their lives. Really, it was a really well done event. Nothing was. I don't know that there's been another event like that that's been held at an MLS club, and it's just another example of the Union Academy, how we can continue to try to be innovative, continue to try to push the development to a new level in the U.S. And I know that there are are a lot of clubs reaching out asking exactly how it all came together. But was really proud of the work that went into it from the academy staff, from operations, from the coaching, from everyone above who was willing to fund this kind of event because it's not cheap, but it was a great experience for the players. And that's always been the target of the Graham family as they have supported the academy from the beginning. And this is just another example of taking things to another level.
It seemed like a resounding success. I know we had a lot of fans even reaching out to us about it, and they're like, "Man, we hope they do this next year." And so many people that hadn't been following the academy and in the past were really getting into it. So that's such a positive. So Kyle, do you want to go next?
Yeah. Um, you talk a little bit about academy. I gotta ask you about a player that came just arrived at the academy, Jet Harrison. Um, you, I'm sure you've seen him practice and play a little bit. What have you seen from him early on? And is he somebody that eventually could make a jump to the second team potentially?
Yeah, he's been in training with us over the last 2 weeks. Uh, he's still adapting to the environment, and you don't want to rush guys through. They also have to take the steps. You don't want to skip any steps in their development for him just to adapt to the style of play, adapt to his new teammates, to a completely new environment, his family to adapt to a new area. There's a lot of new things, so it's not to rush it. But you see with his athleticism that he could be a great fit for our style of play. There's a lot of things that he needs to clean up.
Mhm.
Um, but I really like he's got a great personality. He's the kind of kid who wants to get better. So that's a great starting point. But I think at some point, depending on how he does, depending on how he develops, how he plays with the 18s, how he trains with us, that will determine the kind of opportunities that come to him. But the opportunity is there for all the guys in the academy, and that's kind of our goal with the whole program is to whether local or coming from outside, that we can bring guys through the ranks and prepare them for the next step, be successful, take another step. But just trying to do that at the right time that gives the player the best opportunity for success.
Yeah, and on that note too, another one we were curious about was John Ruff. Just what you've seen from him during preseason, what we could expect from him.
Yeah, John has surprised a lot of us. He surprised the entire coaching staff just with his physicality, his work rate, his effort against the ball, his runs behind. Finds a way to make an impact in almost every game that we've played through preseason and every training session. He trains like an absolute animal. So he's made a great impression so far. For him, he needs to clean up a lot of things, definitely. He needs to be more solid in his hold up play with his when he has his back to goal, be more solid in this and do a better job to bring his midfield into the game. He needs to clean up it in front of goal. He needs to become a lot more clinical and polished, I would say, in front of goal. But he has a lot of the qualities that we like in a striker, and he has some time here to develop, and he'll be one that certainly gets the opportunity with Union too. And for him, it's the same as I say with all the guys. It's about getting better through the entire season, and he seems to have the kind of personality and the kind of work ethic that can make that possible. And the opportunity is there for him this year because he's earned it with the way that he came in this year. If I compare where he was at when he started to train with us a little bit at the end of last season, even just till now, you can see a complete change as far as his comfortability around the group, around the coaches, his confidence in training, and the way that he brought that into the game. So we're looking forward to seeing, how much he can kind of grow as a soccer player, because he has a lot of the physical tools and he has the mentality and the work rate and the work ethic. Now he has to grow a little bit as a soccer player as he keeps going up the levels because while that stuff is great, you're playing against some really clever guys, so it can't always be this is the way that you beat players. But you have to also outsmart them sometimes. So it's for him just continue learning the game, continuing to work on the things he needs to get better at. As a striker, you need to make an impact when you play. You need to score goals. You need to create chances. You need to do a lot of things really well, and we look forward to seeing, how much he can grow throughout the season.
Um, so Malik spent some time with the first team this preseason. From your standpoint, having seen him here, what have you seen from him development wise early on from this year compared to last year? And what are your thoughts on his recent national team call up?
Yeah, I think I'll start with the national team call up. You know,
Mhm.
it's we were sad to miss him for a lot of the preseason, even though there were qualifiers. And, I know he scored, 100 goals or something, but this was, I don't know that it was the most competitive games that he was scoring in. It's always good to score when you're a striker, but it's good for him to kind of make a name for himself within the federation. You see him getting a lot of attention on social media, things like that. Um, but for him, he's the kind of player that if you put him in a game, he's going to score goals. And if it's a game that's a blowout and there's 7 goals, he's going to get 5 of them. He's just so hungry to score, and he has such quality in front of goal and knows how to put himself in the right positions and the way that he reads the game. That it's no surprise to me with the amount of goals that he was scoring in these games. For him, it's a big year for him. Because he's the kind of guy that should be able to really take the next step. You don't want to put any pressure on him or go above, make unrealistic expectations. But we see a great player in Malik, and I see a great kid with a super ability, and he needs this. He's another one that needs to really stay focused and getting better in his craft every single day. And he can't look too far in the future. Focusing every day, the opportunity past Union too, like that will come as long as he does all the right things day to day and keep working in those habits to do everything the right way. But he's one that I mean we all believe in so much, and we can't wait to see uh, how it's going to go for him this year, next year. But for us, there's no limit on where he can take it or when the next step can happen. But we just got to keep his feet on the ground and him focused in the things that actually matter to getting better, training properly, doing all the right things off the field, getting the right sleep, taking care of his responsibilities outside of the field. He's still a junior in high school, so he still has responsibilities outside of the field that maybe aren't normal for a pro player, but there will be something else later in life that he needs to manage outside of the field. So it's a good opportunity for him to stay disciplined and grow up in that sense a little bit. Um, but we're so excited to see what he can do this season.
And
Awesome.
you
You go
kind
ahead,
of
Kyle.
touched on my follow up there about keeping him grounded. So, um, I guess the next question, I'll jump around here a little bit. I I noticed Diego and Eric have moved on from the staff after this past season. First, can you talk about the job both of them did with their time with Union 2? And then second, what excites you most about adding Shabab and Kyle Chin to the staff this year?
Yeah, first I'm really thankful for the work that the both of them did through last season, and happy for them for their next opportunity. Diego getting the opportunity to work with the first team in San Jose, um, and for Eric going to Chicago, kind of a little different path, but he worked here for 4 years and he did a great job. So both of them, like I loved working with them and hoping that they both continue on their path forward in their career. Diego was one, the best thing you could say for a support staff is, he really knows how to work with coaches, and we had a great relationship. He had a great relationship with Henry, Fred, and Ross as well. And all the little things behind the scene that kind of make the engine go. He was on the detail. And with Eric, he was in his position. It's tough because you're kind of on your own a little bit if you compare the second team performance staff to a first team performance staff. But he did such a good job to really uh, focus on the individual athletic development of the players. And so many times you see him working individually with guys, giving them their programs that they need to get stronger, faster, fitter, and to stay injury free. And he did a great job in this. And sometimes was a little extreme with some of the stuff he would do with warm-ups taking forever, but I was always cool with it because I looked at it that this guy really cares that these guys get what they need physically. And he did a great job with that. And like I said, with both of them, I wish them both the best of luck and proud of them for their next step and hope they can use it as another way forward in their careers. And with Kyle joining the staff, he's worked in MLS Next Pro before. And you can see already, like he completely gets it, how to work with coaches, what the coaches need at what point in the week. You don't have to get on them too much um, for the detail and preparation for games, and he's on it. So that's really cool to see. And then with Shabab, there's going to be some growth for him. Stepping into that role, like I mentioned, it's a little different. Coming from the academy, it's a little different because it has to be individual, and we have to, from a physical standpoint, these prepare these boys to compete against men. So they have to be robust enough to do that. And that's the job of the performance coach in the second team is getting these guys physically prepared that they're in a space where they can compete against men.
And then, of course, opening day on Saturday coming up. So put them to the test here. Just looking ahead to Saturday's match, what are you hoping to see from your squad and what stands out to you about TFC too? I mean, obviously not as much to go on yet, early going, but what are you expecting for that?
Yeah, with Toronto, it's tough because it's tough in the preseason with a lot of the second teams because you see a lot of guys that are in training with the first team for a lot of preseason and maybe don't play in the preseason games and even the couple games that they were able to see from them. We expect that the lineup might be a little bit different, but it's a same coach from last year. You expect similar ideas and system going into this season. But it's one in the beginning of the year that it's pretty unpredictable of what exactly that they're going to look like. And for us, what I'm asking from our group, like I said, it's a lot of guys that it will be their first time playing in MLS Next Pro. And for some guys that were maybe coming a little bit from the bench or maybe had a not as big of a role last year, they'll be playing a big role this year. So what I'm looking forward is seeing that they're brave and aggressive. They know the style that we want to play. They've been most of the academy guys, they've been playing in this way for a few years now. Now it's trying to do it at a different level against some older competition, against better competition. But that no one's afraid going into the game. That's all that I ask. And we can correct the mistakes as we go through the year, but you can't the starting point can't be that everyone was hiding on the field. That can't be the case. So what I look forward to most is no passengers, everybody uh, showing what they can have, and again, mistakes are okay because that's how we work forward.
And in terms of goalkeeper, obviously Pierce is coming off that injury. How's he doing? How's he been progressing?
Yeah, he's fully fit, so he's in full training. He played two of the preseason games. I still think he's not quite moving exactly the way that he was prior to the injury, so that might take a couple more weeks. But he has the mentality to keep pushing to get to the spot where he was, and then to keep going to where he wants to get to. And then the goalkeeper situation in the second team, you guys know how it goes. It can kind of change week to week depending on the first team schedule and who's available, and making sure that those guys are also match fit for when they're called upon for the first team.
Um, I do have one question. So Jackson Gilman was announced he's going to be with Toronto FC too for this year, I guess. Came up through the academy and actually spent some time with Union too. Did you ever get a chance to work with him?
Yeah, I coached him in the academy.
Can you talk a little
Actually,
bit about him?
yeah.
Uh,
I mean,
here.
Jackson's a great character. He's someone we would have loved to have in Union 2 this year. But he was drafted by Toronto out of Pitt. He had a great college career at Pitt. Um, I had the chance to work with him from when he was a U12 and then also at U14 for a little bit and then at U17 as well. And then last year we had him in, during their breaks in school in the spring break and then through the summer as well. So no surprise to me that he's latched on with an MLS organization. And he's top kid, top family, someone we're all rooting for, just not this weekend.